At 40 degrees below zero, your own breath betrays you. The moisture leaving your lungs freezes before it can rise, hardening into tiny crystals that drift down and strike the snow with a sound the old hunters called the whisper of stars. The ice does not hear you breathe. The ice watches you breathe. And somewhere beneath it, in water so dark it has never known color, something is listening for exactly that. This is the world the Inuit did not conquer. They never fought the Arctic, never tried to overpower it, never imagined they could win against a place that kills carelessness within minutes. Instead, they learned to disappear into it, to move through the frozen world until the world stopped noticing they were there. And the most important tool they carried to do it weighed less than a single gram. It was not the harpoon. Understand what this place asks of a human being. 4 months without sunrise. No crops, no wood, no shelter beyond what you build from snow and bone. Skin left bare begins to die in under 10 minutes. Everything a family needed to survive the winter was hidden below 2 meters of ice, and it could hear you coming. So survival here never began with the strike, or the weapon, or the chase. It began with attention. And the Inuit had a word for that kind of attention, a word English still cannot translate, a word that explains everything you are about to see. To understand why a man would stand motionless on an ice field for an entire day, you have to understand what he was waiting for. The seal was not dinner. The seal was an entire civilization folded into a single animal. Its fat became oil for the quillic, the long soapstone lamp with a wick of moss that burned without smoke and without pause through 4 months of darkness. Its skin became kamek, the boots that kept feet alive, and the tulik, the waterproof jacket, sealed so tightly a man could roll a kayak upright and stay dry. Its intestines were split, dried, and stitched into rain gear light enough to fold in one hand, or into translucent windows that let a little grey light into a snow house. Its bones became harpoon heads and sled frames. Its sinew became thread. And here is the part that gives the whole thing its weight. The quillic belonged to the woman of the house. She trimmed the wick through the night, adjusting a flame the length of a forearm, because if that light went out in a windowless snow house at 40 below, the family did not simply grow cold, they died. So when a hunter walked out into the dark, he understood something most of us never will. The light waiting for him at home had been given by the animal he killed last time, but the seal was never a passive gift. It feels vibration through meters of solid ice. Its whiskers can trace the current a fish left behind 30 seconds earlier, and a single seal keeps 10 to 15 breathing holes open at once, scattered across miles, used in no order any human can predict. You cannot beat an animal like that. You can only stop existing in front of it. So the hunt began long before the hunt, out on an ice field that looks to an outsider like nothing at all. But nothing was exactly what it was not. A low dome swelling out of the snow, barely the height of a man's ankle, was an igloo, a breathing hole roofed over by drifting snow. A patch of ice gone slightly darker meant open water working underneath. A thin crack running off toward the horizon marked a road the seals travelled below, and where a man's eyes failed, his dog's did not. A good lead dog could smell an igloo through a meter of packed snow and stop cold, and everything the family would eat that month depended on whether the man trusted the animal at the end of the line. Then came the harder part. Sound travels through ice more than 4 times faster than through air, and a single careless step is an alarm that spreads hundreds of meters in every direction. So he wore boots of soft skin with no hard sole at all, and he moved only when the wind was strong enough to swallow him. At the hole, he packed the opening shut with snow, leaving one narrow slit, and into that slit he set the most important tool he owned. It weighed less than a gram, a slender piece of down, or a thin sliver of bone, resting in the gap. When a seal rose to breathe, the warmth and the pressure of that breath would make it tremble. He was not watching the water, he was watching a feather. Everything his family had came down to the smallest movement a human eye can see. He built a low wall of snow blocks against the wind, and then he stopped. 6 hours, 10 hours. No stamping his feet for warmth, no coughing, no sleep. Some men tied their knees together with a strip of hide, so that if the cold made their bodies shake, the shaking would make no sound. And when the moment finally came, he would have 1/4 of a second to decide. In his hands rested the unak, and every part of it was a small miracle of scarcity. The shaft was driftwood, carried by currents from forests thousands of miles south, in a land where a single length of timber was worth more than gold. The head was walrus ivory. and that head held a secret that engineers still admire today. It did not stay fixed to the shaft. On impact, it detached, slipped beneath the animal's skin, and turned sideways, locking crosswise under the hide with nothing but the pull of the line. It is called a toggling harpoon head, and it is considered one of the most sophisticated mechanical inventions of the pre-industrial world. It did not hold by barbs, it held by geometry. Then the feather moved. A seal at a breathing hole surfaces for seconds, sometimes less. The strike had to pass through a slit no wider than a hand, down into black water, into a target he had never once laid eyes on, guided only by a tremble the width of a thread, 1/4 of a second. And then the line went tight, and everything moved beneath the ice where no one could see it. He did not pull hard, he did not jerk the rope. He let it run through his hands and he read it, because every vibration traveling up that line was a sentence in a story. He knew where the animal was, he knew how it turned, how deep it went, how tired it had become, and he knew all of it without ever seeing it. And when at last he drew the seal up onto the ice, he did not celebrate. The Inuit believed the animal had chosen to give itself to a hunter who deserved it, so he took fresh water and let a few drops fall into its mouth, so that its spirit would not be thirsty on the journey home to the sea. This was never a victory. This was an agreement, completed, and then nothing was wasted. The meat was life itself. The fat became light. The skin became warmth, the bones became tools, the sinew became thread, the intestines became windows and rain gear, and whatever remained went back to the dogs and back to the sea. But the first thing that happened when a hunter came home was not a meal for his own family. The catch was divided among the whole camp before his children ate, and the elders were served first, the ones who could no longer hunt at all. In a place like this, sharing was never a moral idea. It was insurance. The man who feeds you today is the man who will still be alive to feed you in a season when your own luck fails. And this brings us back to that word, the one English has never been able to translate. The word is sila. It means the weather. It means the air. It means the whole living universe outside your body. And it also means intelligence, awareness, the mind itself. In the Inuit language, the sky outside and the thought inside share a single word, because they were never understood as two separate things. You cannot read the world unless you have first learned to be still enough to read yourself. So this was never a story about hunting. It was a story about perception. Survival did not belong to the strongest, or the fastest, or the loudest. It belonged to whoever could stand still the longest. And out on the ice, that hunter's breath was still freezing in the air and falling to the snow with a sound like whispering stars. Only now you understand what it was saying. We live in a world of noise. Perhaps we've forgotten what the silence has been trying to tell us all along.